The courtroom was too quiet, not peaceful, tense, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. People sat still on the benches. Even the air felt heavy. No one knew why, but something just felt wrong. Then the doors opened. Judge Malcolm Reed walked in, tall and calm, wearing his long black robe. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes, sharp, watching everything. He had seen war. He had seen worse. So a courtroom didn't scare him. But that day, someone came in who didn't belong in a room full of justice. Officer Wallace. Thick boots, dark uniform, and a face that looked like it was always seconds away from exploding. He didn't come in like a witness. He came in like a man ready for a fight. People whispered when they saw him. That's the cop who slammed that teenager. That's the one who got away with it. That's the one they say don't like folks who look different. But Judge Reed didn't flinch. He had seen Wallace's type before, loud, proud, and dangerous when they thought no one could stop them. The case started like any other. Names were called, oaths were sworn, questions were asked, but every second felt like a string pulled tighter. Wallace didn't want to answer questions. He didn't like being told what to do, especially not by a black judge in charge of his fate. And when Judge Reed told him to answer directly, Wallace's eyes changed. His hand twitched near his hip, and then the unthinkable happened. He drew his gun. In court, at the judge, chaos exploded. But what Wallace didn't know was, he had just made the worst mistake of his life. Officer Wallace's face hit the cold marble floor. His gun had been knocked across the courtroom. The federal agents held him down as he yelled, "Get off me! This is a mistake. He's not." But the agents didn't care about his excuses. They had seen enough. Judge Malcolm Reed still hadn't moved. He stood behind the bench like a statue carved from steel. His voice was calm, but everyone in the courtroom could hear it echo with authority. Remove him and bring the court-martial. The agents dragged Wallace out as cameras and phones in the gallery buzzed to life. Word was spreading fast. Once the courtroom cleared, the judge turned to the stunned crowd. "I know what you all saw was frightening, but I assure you, this court is protected. That's not by accident." People leaned forward, curious, confused. Judge Reed stepped down from the bench and took off his robe. Underneath it, he wore a discreet military service pin on his shirt. "I served this country before I served this court. When threats began months ago, I requested federal protection. Because I don't just protect the law, I protect the people inside these walls." Gasps, whispers filled the air. "You were in the military?" someone asked. "Yes," the judge nodded. "Special forces. 2 tours. I've stared down worse than a scared man with a gun." One lawyer, still shaken, said, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because justice doesn't wear a uniform. It wears patience, discipline, strength, not show." Outside the building, news vans pulled up. Wallace was now in federal custody. What began as a simple misconduct hearing had turned into a national scandal. And Judge Reed? He walked out of the courthouse not as a victim, but as a symbol. 2 weeks later, the courtroom looked different. More security, more cameras, more attention. But Judge Reed was still the same, calm, steady, and clear. This time, it was Officer Wallace who stood in the defendant's chair. No badge, no belt, just an orange jumpsuit and a face that had lost all its fake confidence. The federal prosecutor laid out the charges. Assault with a deadly weapon, threatening a federal judge, abuse of power, all caught on video. No way out. Wallace tried to speak, but the judge shut it down with one wave of the hand. This court is not a place for lies. It is not a place for pride. It is a place for truth. He paused. "I gave you the chance to be honest. I gave you the chance to explain yourself. And instead, you reached for violence. You chose fear over facts. And now," he looked Wallace straight in the eyes, "you'll live with that choice." Then came the sentence. 25 years in federal prison. No parole. Gasps filled the courtroom again. But this time they were relieved. Justice hadn't just shown up, it had stood tall. As Wallace was led away in chains, someone in the back whispered, he thought he could scare him, but he didn't know who he was messing with. Judge Reed put his robe back on, tapped his gavel once, and said, "Court is adjourned. May this serve as a reminder. No one is above the law." He walked out slowly, as the courtroom rose to its feet, not in fear, not in pity, but in respect.